I just wanted to ask you a question.
Yeah.
A friend of mine are working on a project about the Sahara Tahoe.
Mm-hmm.
Now, it's a book, and what's really funny is that hasn't really been documented. Let me turn this TV down.
Sure.
The Sahara Tahoe hasn't really been documented much.
Yeah, he wasn't there often. You know that.
Huh?
He wasn't there too often.
Right. And then he only did like 2 weeks. But it was funny because I was talking to Ed Bonja tonight.
Yeah.
And he said he's feeling better, actually. He was saying that Elvis and all the guys looked at Sahara Tahoe as a vacation to get away from Vegas.
Well, that's true.
That is true.
Well, yeah, it was a different experience. I mean, it was still the gambling and the casinos.
Mm-hmm.
But, you know, have you ever been in Tahoe?
No.
Oh, it's up in the mountains, and it's a resort on a lake, and it was different. But that's quite a couple of things happened there, as you know.
No.
Well, one is, that's when that one night after a show.
Oh, with the sunny thing? With
the red thing, really.
Right, with Red, yeah.
Right. And Red really did this guy in, and Elvis really disliked that tremendously. And came up to, the guy was handcuffed, and Red beat him up while he was handcuffed.
Why would he ever do that?
Yeah.
You don't know, yeah.
Well, you know, these guys sometimes.
Uh-huh.
At any rate, Elvis got a towel and wiped the blood off the guy. And so the guy turned around and sued Elvis. He doesn't sue Red and Sonny, he sues Elvis.
Of course, because Elvis is the guy with the money.
Elvis is the guy with the money, he's the target, that's why they're there. And we're talking like $10, $12 million or something, some outrageous. But it never went through because the guy did have a real bad record.
Mm-hmm.
And but I wasn't in Tahoe at that time.
No.
So I couldn't really be much of an assistant.
Well, can you tell me much of, like, when you were in Tahoe? What did Elvis... Okay, I mean, Ed told me how it was a vacation and where he really didn't even take his camera to Tahoe because it was like everybody kicked back and had a good time. And
True.
Yeah.
That's true. But that incident... See, you know, eventually Red and Sonny, those guys got fired.
Right.
They got fired because Elvis had many, many lawsuits. Because
of them?
Because of those guys.
Just being too macho?
Just being too, yeah, exactly. They were quite macho. And Elvis felt that, they exceeded their authority in what they did, and he didn't like it, and so they were fired.
Uh-huh.
Simple as that. And that wasn't the only incident. There were others. When, they beat people, Elvis didn't always get sued.
Right.
But those guys would, they would rough people up when they really didn't have to. And, I saw this happen many times with some of the guys, and they would exceed their authority, and they would rough someone up, and all they had to do is tell the guy, hey, get out of here.
Right. Well, of course, because he was Elvis, and everybody wanted to be close, everybody wanted the picture, everybody wanted an autograph.
And it's only natural.
Uh-huh.
It's part of the whole mystique, it's part of this. Comes with the territory.
Touching a star. Just touching a star.
Of course he wanted to be protected.
Right.
And he was protected. No one ever...
Well, there was death threats, for real death threats.
Many times I was there, I can tell you a lot of different death threats.
Really?
Oh, man. I'll give you an example. We were in Florida, and Elvis was on stage, and he had rent-a-cops in the front of the stage. A couple of, 3 or 4 guys that would hold back the crowds of people that would run to the stage. And one night, this guy ran with a knife, and a cop put his hand out. The guy put his knife right through the cop's hand.
My God.
Right through it. I can't tell you how many times we would be in an auditorium. Elvis would not know what was going on, but the bomb squad would be there, and they would be dressed in, black, like a black jumpsuit.
Like a SWAT type thing?
Like a SWAT, exactly. And their head, they would have black caps on. They would be under the seats searching for bombs because death threats would come in all the time. I remember one night we left another place in Florida, and we left the auditorium, and I looked up, and there was on the roof, I could see we were being covered by the SWAT team with rifles.
And you knew nothing before that there was a problem? Or?
Well, I knew there was a bomb threat, but you never ever know. And, Elvis was, that important.
Mm-hmm.
And so they had to, guys on high-powered rifles following us as we leave the building, got into the limo and the bus. And that happened several times. And one time we were in Pittsburgh, and it was New Year's Eve, and we were at the it was viciously cold. This was 1976, and it was way below zero, like 30, 40 degrees below zero, and Elvis's father was on tour with us, and Elvis just felt, let's just get out of here. He did the show, we went back to the hotel, and in fact, that night I remember very well, because I was sitting with Elvis in his room, and the phone rang. It was about 2 in the morning. I said, Larry, pick up the phone. I picked up the phone. The voice says, can I speak to Elvis, please? I said, sure. Who's calling? He said, is this Jimmy Carter? I said, come on, who in the hell is this? Stop messing around. It was Jimmy Carter.
Oh, well, how often does people? I mean, the last time the presidents called me, I mean, my wife was a little confused by it too.
Yeah, right. So I said, Elvis, this guy says it's Jimmy Carter. I said, no, it is. I was expecting this call. I forgot to tell you.
Oh my God.
Yeah. So they got the phone and chat. Now this was between November when he was elected. This was in like December 31st. Inauguration wasn't until a couple of weeks after that, but he was the president-elect, was getting ready to be inaugurated. So I felt rather foolish. At any rate, this was about 2 in the morning. I said, man, it's so cold here. My daddy's here, and he doesn't feel well. Let's get the hell out of here. Let's get that plane cranked up. So we packed up. Everyone came and got Elvis's stuff. We went to the airport. We get on the plane, and it was freezing cold.
Mm-hmm.
And my wife's trying to... 20 minutes, yeah. I'm doing my wife's hair. Coloring it.
I'm sorry.
So, all of a sudden, the tower called the cockpit of the plane. Elwood Davis was our pilot. Got 2 bomb threats here. You guys can't take off unless you sign a waiver absolving us of any responsibility. Otherwise, you guys can't leave until your plane is absolutely checked by the FBI and the this and the that, and which would have meant hours and hours of, just all that stuff. So Joe Esposito said, to hell with this, man. I'll just sign it. Don't tell Elvis. He went out, he signed it. So when we took off, a bomb threat means that if there's a bomb on a plane, it's going to go off within the first 3-4 minutes.
Really?
Yeah. So, I mean, that's how these things we're told, typically. So when we took off, it was silence. We were just looking at each other like, hey, I guess it happens. We won't even know it.
Right. You won't have to worry about it.
We won't have to worry about it. It will happen so quickly.
Mm-hmm.
And Joe said, it's probably some fans crank, these things happen. And they did. Bomb threats would come in, bomb threats to the auditorium. I was asked to, I was brought over to London to give a talk for Elvis's birthday. Before I got on the stage, and there was several hundred people there, the promoter came up to me and said, Larry, we just received this. It was a note from the IRA saying, if this man speaks tonight, a bomb is going to go off. So I had to make a decision. I said, the hell with it. Remembering about, the plane and all that. I said, the heck with it. And, I wish I had that little, like a little note, because they gave it to me and I kept it. But at any rate, those things happened a lot with Elvis.
Mm-hmm.
And that's why, the thing of it is, you never, ever know. And that's why the old saying, an ounce of precaution, right?
Mm-hmm.
And the famous story, when Elvis was in Vegas, I got to the hotel, because I was in L.A., and I came in kind of late, And I get to the suite, and Elvis runs up to me, and he hands me a 38. He said, "Put this on your jacket, man. Wait, there's some problems. There's trouble. There might be trouble tonight." What happened was someone set up to the suite. Downstairs, Colonel Parker had these booths, and they were selling Elvis hats and posters and all that kind of stuff.
Mm-hmm.
So a poster of Elvis came up to the suite with crayon on it, with a bullet and an arrow, and it shows where Elvis was going to get shot tonight, and it said, that kind of thing. So the FBI came in. Baron Hilton came upstairs and said, "Elvis, you do not have to go on tonight." And Elvis said, "No way, Mr. Hilton. There's no way I'm not going to go on. Because if there's someone who really wants to get me, if it's not going to be tonight, it'll be tomorrow, next month, or next year. They'll get me if they really want to get me. I'm going on. I'm not going to let that stop me." And Hilton said, "Well, you can. They have these bulletproof vests. I can't wear one of those things. I'm already wearing a jumpsuit. No, I won't be able to move properly." And so that night, in the back of the room at the Hilton in Vegas, there were these, and I saw, 4 or 5 different you can spot these guys. They look right out of the movies.
Thing in their ears?
In their ears with sunglasses and black suits.
At a concert.
In Vegas yet.
In Vegas.
In Las Vegas at a supper show. So, and in the back there was some 2 ambulances waiting, God forbid, and nothing obviously ever happened. One other time, I was on stage, and 4 guys jumped the stage, and they planned it.
Uh-huh. Oh, they're all at different parts of the stage?
Different angles.
Wow.
And they were, within 5 seconds, they were being thrown off the stage onto the tables, and the audience was clapping. They thought it was part of the show.
Wow.
They thought this was, like a gag or something,
uh-huh.
And they went right to jail.
So now we're Sonny and Red and, and Art Dick, were they right in the mix of these things? Or?
Yeah, absolutely.
You must have been impressed sometimes by how good, do these good guys, you already said they took it seriously, but were they that good?
You have to take it seriously.
Were they that good? Were they a really good...
They're bad guys, they're rough and tumble type guys.
Right.
And then, of course, the last year of Elvis's life, Ed Parker was with us.
Mm-hmm.
You know about Ed Parker?
Yeah.
Right.
Hawaiian.
If you walked in the room, you would feel it physically. This guy had an energy about him.
Uh-huh.
He was like an animal. It's like a hippopotamus came in the room, and it's like with this power. And he, with his adeptness and all of the black belts that he had, and he's the guy that taught Chuck Norris.
Right.
He's the guy that worked with Bruce Lee. We're talking a guy that is so up there. He had knives and weapons on him, but nothing ever happened. But he was there.
Right.
And it's a secure feeling because you never ever know. Case in point, John Lennon.
And the guy was just going to say it.
Right.
I was just going to say it.
And you know what? He didn't have any security because New York is, very late. It's a very different trip. People think California is laid back, but when it comes to celebrities in New York, they walk around. And that's one of the reasons they like it. They can be a little more anonymous and go places, but you never, ever know.
Right. Now, did that make Elvis paranoid?
Elvis is already dead.
No,
What?
I don't mean because of John Lennon,
Oh.
but because of the death threats and that, did it make him even more paranoid, or no, he was...
No, not at all. He was not. Elvis was fearless.
Really?
Oh, he was fearless. That stuff didn't bother him at all. He knew he had a crack staff with him. We had, wherever we went, we had we hired security, and you couldn't come on our floor at a hotel. There was cops right at the elevator. Couldn't get off.
Uh-huh.
So he knew that he was protected as much. Look, he was. When Kennedy was assassinated, I came on the scene right after that. Wow, man, that was really on his mind.
Really?
We would read things the Gemstone. I don't know if you ever heard of the Gemstone Files.
No.
About all this conspiratorial things of who did it, and we read all this stuff, and
He was really into conspiracy theories and stuff?
A little bit.
Uh-huh.
Not that much. But when it came to Kennedy, he read the Gemstone. And Gemstone, to this day, is known as a very deep conspiratorial type of organization.
Uh-huh.
It's called the Gemstone Files. And I got a copy through a friend and gave him to Elvis, and he read it and reread it.
Really?
Oh, yeah. But in terms of that, like in the 60s, it was peace, love, and drugs, no one had, you didn't have to have security. Nobody had security in those days. Elvis did because Elvis was a notch above the superstars. He was Elvis. He was in a category by himself.
Mm-hmm.
And so wherever he was, Red was there and Sonny was there. Because Dave Hebler was never there. He wasn't there in the 60s. Neither was Ed Parker.
Mm-hmm.
And no one really carried, weapons in those days like they did in the 70s. In the 70s, things started to change.
That's too bad.
It is too bad. It's
Mm-hmm.
too bad for our world,
Yeah.
I mean, I remember the 60s. It was a much more peaceful time. It was fun, and my wife and I talk about this all the time. I put the top back of my car and leave it on the street. Never consider they're going to steal my car, let alone take my radio out or whatever they do. Now, wow, you got to have a security system and bars and all sorts of things.
They do. I'm slow on your book only because I really do have a memory problem because of the.
Don't you worry about it.
Because of the amount of pain scripts that I take. But I wanted to ask because now you met Elvis early on when he was doing that show, and you shook his hand, and
when I was a kid in high school.
Right. Now, did you ever? I mean, it's almost like I can't wait till the end of the book because I want to know if you ever told him.
Oh, certainly. Years later, but it was no big thing. We laughed.
Yeah.
It was a giggle. How he couldn't remember me.
No, my God.
I really met a million people in his lifetime.
Yeah.
And I told him, and he got to, he sort of remembered that concert because that was a very memorable thing. And George Krein was there that night, and probably Red as well.
All the people he's met over the years must have just smeared together. He couldn't possibly remember people.
Precisely.
Yeah.
Precisely. In terms of you being slow, don't you worry about it. I understand. I'm dealing with my son right now, by the way, who has MS.
Oh.
And he's really going through it big time. And just got him a wheelchair.
Yeah.
And I was talking to my wife about you, and you have what's called a sebaceous cyst, right?
Mm-hmm. Well, it's like a fatty tumor. It's a tumor. It's a fatty tumor.
Fatty is oil.
Right. And it's crushing the spinal cord. And they've removed it 5 times. It's a form of spinal bifida.
What?
It's a form of spinal bifida. I was born with it, and they've removed it 5 times, and I now have a neurogenic bladder and braces up both legs, wheelchair, extreme pain. I mean, I wish I could give it to somebody for 5 minutes, for 5 minutes apiece. Oh my God, no. Okay, then I'd rather take it and put it in a box for 5 minutes.
Yeah.
Just to say I had 5. I can't Larry, I can't tell you the last time I had no pain. I can't tell you. I don't remember.
That's unbelievable, man.
Yeah, so, but, I'm still here, though. I got to keep fighting. And
you're breathing, you're here.
That's right.
You have your awareness, you have your heart and soul, you have your family.
Mm-hmm. Well, that's why I asked about a book. I thought maybe you could recommend something that might give me a little light.
I was at a bookstore earlier, and I was thinking about I will come up with something. When you finish my book, I'll have a book for you. How's that?
Okie doke. You get back to your wife now.
I'm going to do that because...
We'll talk again.
You don't want to ever get in trouble with the wife.
No. I can't run very fast, so... Okie dokie.
How many kids do you have?
I have 2 kids.
Beautiful.
14 and Aaron's 11.
Beautiful. How's their health?
They're fine.
Beautiful.
Thank God. It's funny because being born with, I was born with, if I was born now, they could take care of it.
Really?
Yeah.
Well, you never know.
Yeah.
Joe, you never know what they're going to come up with.
Yeah. We'll talk again.
We'll talk again.
All right, buddy.
Those guys across the street, you got to listen, go with them.
You sound like my wife.
Those guys.
You sound like my wife.
Well, she's right.
I know. I just don't want to be without my family. You don't.
Well, of course you don't.
I get. You have the surgery and you're so depressed. I'm like the last time I had my surgery, Larry. I don't remember anything for 2-3 weeks. I was dripping spinal fluid. They were giving me caffeine by IV. It was like 2.5, 3 weeks later. I finally realized where I was, and they said, "Oh yeah, you've just been a la."
Wow.
And it's awful. And every time I go through it, it hurts more.
Different kind of a procedure, though.
They literally go in, and it's almost like a laminectomy. They go in and remove the lamina and remove more of the tumor, and every time they remove more of the tumor, I lose more. The last time they said, Mr. Krein, we don't think you're going to be walking this time. I said, don't you go in there with that kind of attitude.
Your last name, where's that from?
Krein, German.
Germany?
Yeah. It actually was Kreiner. But they got tired of spitting on people. Yeah, no, they changed it to Krein, and you lose the.
Yeah, right.
Yeah.
Yeah, my dad's family, they're all from Austria. Germany and Austria.
Yeah.
So, but I have a Jewish background.
Yeah. Do you live near Vegas or California or still?
I'm from Southern California.
Yeah, I'm going to be there in about a couple of weeks, but I'll be in Vegas is what I'm saying.
Oh, you're going to Vegas?
Yeah, I'm going to, Dick said he's going to meet up with me. We're going to do lunch. I hope so this time,
Oh, beautiful, man.
The last couple of times, he said he was going to, and he always kind of burned me at the last minute. And
really?
I said, it's Dick, I like going to Vegas. I like seeing my friends, but, I've always wanted to sit down and talk to you. I said, I'll buy you the beer. I'll buy you lunch. Please don't burn me this time. I want to be able to just talk to you. And
Sure. Go to Elvis.
I was there last time.
Oh, good.
Yeah, and that was purchased now, though.
Oh, I know.
So they're going to close it, and he has a hell of a collection.
Yeah, of course.
Did you have a chance to look at my site at all, or?
Your site?
Yeah.
I haven't yet, to tell you the truth.
Okay, well, at least you didn't lie.
I will. No lie.
No, you'll like it. You'll be surprised. You'll like it. Okay.
Listen, my friend, we are in touch.
Okay.
And don't you worry about the time, and whatever needs to be done, we'll do it.
Okay,
I'm there for you, all right?
All right, buddy. Thank you.
You got it, man.
All right, bye-bye. And I talked last night to Cheryl Nielsen. Spoke very nicely of Cheryl.
Oh,
Sean Nielsen.
Yeah, sure.
Talked very nice about you. Very interesting man. And, it's funny. I've interviewed a few people now, and there's a fine line between pro-Colonel, anti-Colonel, pro-Elvis, and anti-Elvis. And I really didn't know which way and, it was really kind of funny because Charles Stone thought of Colonel Parker like a father. And everybody else was so negative. And then I heard other entourage members speak highly of the Colonel. And then, your book kind of spoke negative of him. So I thought, I'm going to ask Sean, a very respectful man and a very religious man. And I asked him. Didn't say anything that what you said or that I had talked to you or anything. And I said, what did you think about the Colonel? And he didn't say anything. I'm going, well, you don't have to say anything if you don't want to. He says, well, my mother always taught me if I didn't have something good to say about somebody, not to say anything at all. And I can't think of anything good to say about the man.
Yeah.
I said, really? And he says, oh, yeah. He says, he was horrible. He was a horrible man. And it was just weird. I just couldn't believe it. I mean,
Joe, anyone that knows anything knows what the man was. There's some people that, for political reasons, political and job and money, they will speak kindly of him. But anyone that knows anything. Of course, Cheryl's there. Let me think. I think God came there.
About 71?
70. Was that really? I'm not sure.
Maybe it was a little later.
I think it was, because it was when I think it was more like 73.
Okay.
Yeah, because that's when my book came out, The New Age Voice. And
yes, we talked about that.
Right, his group was named after that.
Yeah.
And so, and of course, my experience goes back to 64 and all the way through, and I had a lot of experience with that man, because I'm not the only one. If you really want your eyes opened, I'm going to suggest a book to read.
Okay.
It's called The Colonel by Alana Nash.
See, now, Alana sent that to me, and I was reading it, And Charles called one night, and I told him when I was reading, he said, that's shit. It's pure shit. None of it's true. And of course, I've been a friend of Charles's for a while now. But another thing with Cheryl Nielsen was, I said, well, what did you think about the Colonel? And he said, well, I tell you, he says, the Colonel made Elvis, made him a very wealthy man, and he made Elvis in the beginning, and he's also the man who destroyed Elvis.
Correct.
And I said, why do you think that? Mm-hmm. And he says, because, Elvis needed goals. And he needed things in his life to work toward and to achieve.
That's right.
And I said, oh, my God, did you just get off the phone with Larry Geller or what? And he says, why? I said, that's exactly what Larry says.
Yeah. Right.
That he needed goals. And because he had no more goals, he had nothing left to live for. He says, I'm just amazed. And Sean said, I'm amazed that someone else saw it the same way that I did.
Uh-huh. At the very, very end, when I say the very end, like the last 4 or 5 months, Elvis was progressively getting sicker. And it was quite obvious. It was obvious to fans, to the media, to a lot of people. The Colonel came in one day. In fact, it's in my book. You read about it.
Right.
And he saw Elvis, who was in a comatose state, and his head was being dunked into a bucket of ice water to get revived from the night before. And the Colonel, who never came to see Elvis,
just barged right in. Yeah.
He saw it firsthand because I was there. I saw what the Colonel saw, and Elvis was moaning. He was going like that as his head's being dunked in the water. About a minute and a half later, the Colonel walked up to me and he said, "The only thing that is important now is that man's on the stage tonight. Nothing else matters. Nothing." Well, that's inhuman. Who in their right mind? And here's the guy that had the power. He's the one.
Right.
Why didn't he get into Elvis into the hospital right then and there?
Well,
if this guy was for real, and this guy had a heart and a soul, why? If this guy was that great of a genius and a businessman, why would he kill the golden goose?
Right.
Why didn't he put him into call a doctor?
What do you think he had it pre-planned? Well, if he dies, I'll live on forever with selling Elvis shirts, or what?
He certainly knew that. I'm not saying he was
right.
Die. I'm not accusing him.
Uh-huh.
I'm just asking questions. I know what I would have done.
Right.
If I was Colonel Parker, and I am the man that books all the tours and makes 50% of the money.
Uh-huh.
I don't think it's right. I think it's. I mean, it was so obvious to me when he said that to me. Then he walked right out. I thought, oh my God! But what about Elvis? Right. Elvis called me in the room afterwards, and when he told me about the Colonel, first of all, he said, "Why the hell did you let him come in on me like that?" I said, "Elvis, I think the guy walked right in. What am I going to do?"
Right. That's when he said, "This is my room."
That's right. This is my ball game, man. And you know what? There is so much more I could have put in that book, but how big can a book be?
Right.
Elvis went on for 45 minutes, cussing and swearing about Colonel Parker and the type of person he was, and this, that, and the other. And Elvis knew that. Look, Elvis is the first to say, "Hey, this is the guy that launched my career."
Right.
He's a genius. The guy knows marketing. He did it, but he lost touch.
Mm-hmm.
Along the way, he lost touch. He made a lot of enemies in Hollywood. No one in Hollywood liked Colonel Parker. None of the studio heads, none of the people that made deals with him, they didn't like him. They knew what he was. They knew where he was from. He was a carny guy. And Elvis was absolutely going to get rid of him. And some other people as well. But that's another issue.
Oh, it's a shame it didn't happen.
Rid of Colonel Parker.
Do you think you could have saved him, or do you think he was too far gone?
Say that again?
Do you think you could have saved Elvis, or was he too far gone?
Who saved Elvis?
You think if he had gotten rid of Elvis...
If Elvis would have gotten rid of the Colonel?
Yeah.
If he would have gotten rid of the Colonel, then I think...
Back in Maine?
In Maine, exactly. Good
See?
memory.
Yeah, I'm trying.
If he would have done that, and he would have gotten someone responsible, that person would have said, "All right, Elvis, great. I'm going to plan your career now in a whole new way, but you got to get healthy, son." You got to get healthy. You've got to do something about your health now.
Mm-hmm.
But listen, you ask me anything you want about this. I'm just going to tell you my reality. That's all I can do.
Well, I'm just so blown away, Larry. I just can't believe. I mean, I can't help but. It's going to sound strange for me, but I can't help but love Elvis. And you are a man who loved Elvis. You knew Elvis. It must have killed you. It must have killed you.
It still kills me. I still cry. In fact, last night I was sitting where I'm sitting on my couch, and the lights are off, and I was thinking about Elvis and what happened. It just blows me away because it ended up as a Greek tragedy.
Mm-hmm.
And that's the truth. This guy had the career in the history of show business. No one's a greater star than Elvis. No one touched people more than him. As I told you this before, more books have been written about Elvis than any movie star, rock star, politician in American history.
Mm-hmm.
More about Elvis Presley. That says a lot. More people go to Graceland every year than any other home in America. Now, it used to be the White House, but after 9/11, the tours stopped there.
Mm.
But even so, that would mean that's the second most visited home in America. But now it's the number one most visited home in America. Who sold more records and albums than Elvis Presley?
Right.
No one. So he's the greatest star, and on those very facts alone, there's not another celebrity that has died. In fact, Fortune magazine came out 2 weeks ago.
Right.
And every year, Elvis, in terms of dead celebrities, made $45 million.
Right.
More than any celebrity that ever lived.
And I'm sure you said everything. Even in the book, you said, "Look, Elvis, I love you. The drugs are killing you.
That's
You're
right.
dying."
That's
and
right.
it didn't do anything.
Around here will tell you the truth either.
Right.
Right to his face.
And to everybody else, he had to be hard-assed and hard-nosed to you.
Yeah.
But to you, he said Lawrence, which I thought was incredible that he called you Lawrence instead of Larry.
Yeah, he always...
Lawrence. See, I'm surprised I'm retrieving it all. He said, Lawrence, I love you too. But you begged him and told him, I love you, you're dying. You are not going to make it.
On the line.
And he still couldn't.
He knew it.
Do you think he didn't want to?
No. He recognized it. Let me tell you something. It took a long time before he woke up to the bitter reality of his life and what happened.
Mm-hmm.
But he woke up. That's the point. That's the point right here. In 1977, the year he died, and this is over a series of conversations we had. He said, "Man, I know why some of these guys are here. They're not my real friends, man. They're here for a paycheck, and I know it, and it hurts me. It kills me. There's only 2 or 3 guys that I consider my friends. I'm getting rid of X, Y, and Z, A, B, D, L, G, a whole bunch of guys to get rid of." And he said, I know my life's on the line. I know what I got to do, man. It's not going to be easy.
And you must have been so happy to hear it.
I was thrilled. We had a house picked out in Hawaii. We knew exactly where we were going to go. And he was going to quit for a year or whatever time it took to get his life, his health back in order. He was going to get off all the pills. He was going to start eating correctly and exercising. No doctors. He knew he didn't need a doctor with him. He didn't have a doctor with him because that was his way of getting pills.
Right.
And then he was going to re-enter Hollywood as an actor.
Mm-hmm.
And that is the truth.
It's funny, when I talked to Sean, I said, Sean, and like I said, I didn't say that I had been talking to you. I said, Sean, toward the end there, I said, who was with Elvis a lot? Who did he lean on? Who was... He said, 100% Larry Geller. I said, really? Larry Geller was close? He says, oh, yes. He says, no, Larry did a lot for Elvis.
Yeah.
And he had no idea that I had been talking to you.
Yeah,
none.
All right. And the thing of it is, Sean is he's one of the decent guys. No question. A stand-up guy. But Sean and a lot of these guys, they didn't have an intimate... They weren't with Elvis every night, They were on either in their hotel, which was not ours, or on another floor. But Elvis respected his voice and wanted him on that stage and as a performer with him. But in terms of people that hung out with Elvis, none of the guys did, man.
Yeah, no, but he knew that you did. He knew that you did, and that you took care of him.
Oh, the word was out, and that. At any rate, I say that Colonel Parker was definitely a marketing genius.
Mm-hmm.
He launched Elvis's career, and he did lose touch with what was right for Elvis. And let me tell you something. Probably one of the greatest acting coaches in American history was Lee Strasberg. He started the Actors Studio. He taught Brando, James Dean, all the great all the great actors.
Mm-hmm.
He said that Elvis is one of our great actors and great talents, and he knew damn well that he wasn't being coached properly, managed properly, but he recognized that Elvis really was an innate actor. He had that quality, that factor that certain actors have, like Brando and Dean. And Elvis won. Do you know how many movies were offered to Elvis?
No.
That the Colonel, and Elvis never even knew about it. I mean,
never even got that far.
Never got that far. I mean, some terrific movies with some real cultivated actors, seasoned actors, and they wanted Elvis, but he wasn't. Elvis knew it. He said, "Man, they packaged me, Hal Wallace, Colonel Parker," and he said, "Hey, I'm not blaming them completely because I take responsibility. I signed the contracts.
Mm-hmm.
I made money off those movies, but where I went wrong is I believed them. They said to me, Elvis, we'll find you something. Don't worry. The fans want to see it. They want to hear you sing in the movies, but we'll find something for you." He said, "Man, all I know is Hal Wallace makes Hawaii and G.I. Blues and Paradise Hawaiian style, and he makes all these tens of millions of dollars, turns around, he makes Beckett with Richard Burton and Peter O'Toole.
Right.
He makes his arty movies, and here's a guy that made Casablanca.
Right.
It's supposed to be the greatest film with Citizen Kane and Casablanca, the two top movies.
Mm-hmm.
And here's a guy that made fantastic movies. He was a smart man.
Mm-hmm.
But Elvis said, I believed in them, man. I believed in them, and I went along, and that's where I went wrong. But he said, man, if there's only, I only regret one thing, and that is that I didn't become the actor that I know I am. He said, I'm an actor. When I was in high school, that's what I want. He said, I want to be a singer and I want to be an actor. I used to daydream all the time.
Mm-hmm.
I used to visualize myself in movies, with Tony Curtis and these guys. And he said, man, and you know what? Elvis knew every one of James Dean's lines in his movies.
Mm-hmm.
Elvis knew him. He saw him so many times because he recognized this guy was a phenomenal actor, because that's what Elvis wanted to be. He said, man, I only have one regret. I didn't become an actor. He said, I could probably win an Oscar if they would have given me that chance.
Mm.
And that's why he got really pissed off at the end. He was pissed off at Colonel Parker and the way he barged in on him that day. And he said, man, this is my private life. He shouldn't do that.
Right.
He said he's supposed to take care of business, and he's not even taking care of business. He's not doing the right thing with me, and I know it. Why doesn't he find me a movie? I kept saying to him over and over again, find me a real movie. And he said, not only that, he said, I'm getting tired. All I do is tour America. He said, I love my fans, but what about me? He said, how about my fans in England and in Germany and in Japan? I wonder what they think of me that I don't come and see them. The Beatles come here, but I can't go there.
Mm-hmm.
The Rolling
Do you
Stones?
think he would have cleaned up sooner if he knew that he was going to go overseas? I mean, lost weight and got healthy?
He would have done, yes. I think he would have done something to get himself together, and it would have been the biggest tour in the history of show business. I'm going to tell you something. Colonel Parker was a marketing guy, no question. But Colonel Parker what's that old saying? Penny wise, pound foolish. If he would have gone on a European tour for like 3-4 months or whatever it is, he would have had videos of Elvis in Italy, Germany, France, Scotland, England, Japan, all the countries. He could have had 3-4 albums out of it. You know how much money he would have made?
Mm-hmm.
It would have been phenomenal. It would have been outrageous. But the fact of the matter is, Colonel Parker was no colonel. He was not a Tom, and he wasn't a Parker. Okay?
Mm-hmm.
He was an illegal alien.
Right.
And his background is dubious. And, yeah.
You know, the one part inside...
He couldn't get a passport, you understand?
Right, yeah, his real name was Andrew Guduljic, or...
State Department. He wasn't looking in on him.
No.
He did something, man. No one knows for sure. Alana Nash has a theory.
Right.
That was...
That he had killed somebody.
That he killed a young girl. And that's when he came right over here.
Right.
Yeah. So, I mean,
you know, when I read your book, there were so many parts that upset me so much. And one of the parts which I thought was bizarre. Well, what was he doing when he ate 5 banana splits? What was he doing?
You know what? I'm going to tell you. That was so shocked. We were in Baltimore. And Ginger was with us, I remember. And when he ate when he ate the second one, I was surprised.
Uh-huh.
I'm talking, this was a big banana split. I couldn't handle it. I couldn't handle it, man. I went to my room, I called downstairs, and I ordered one. Just to see. I couldn't even finish it. I was just sitting there bloated. And what he was doing, because I thought, this is what I thought. What the hell is he doing? It was like something deep down in him knew that his days were numbered. And he wanted to get all the ice cream and things that a little boy that was deprived of all those things.
Uh-huh.
I mean, when he was growing up, he had cravings, let's say, like all kids do, for popcorn and candies and, all the things that we all did as kids.
Mm-hmm.
They couldn't afford it. They didn't have those kind of things. And I think he was just trying to get whatever he could. Elvis was running on two parallel tracks at the same time. 2 realities were happening. One reality was this. I'm Elvis. I want to live. I want to get better. I want to go in a new direction. I want to be an actor. And I want to do all these things with my life. I want to have a relationship.
Right.
I want other things. And then on the other track, it was death. It was the voice of doom. It was all the negative things in his life. And the people around him did not want him to change. They did not want him to think for himself, because they were afraid that if he changed, that he would see them for what they were.
Right.
And that's how that works. He knew it, man. He woke up to it. And he didn't wake up that the voice, like that death was over his shoulder.
Right.
But when he sang Unchained Melody by himself, it was remarkable. He was on stage at the piano, and he sang Unchained Melody, and the light was on him. I know he was singing to his mother. He was singing to death. He was singing to something different than what everyone else was thinking. It was his own secret. He has his own secret.
It's so strange how it seemed like whenever he went back on stage, he got revived.
Yes, he did.
It's like
this is what I
the
say.
love just fed him, and
Oh, no question about it. He would walk on the stage. We'd be back, and every night before a performance, he would have me put my hands on him and do a little healing treatment. And I did it. He walked on the stage, and he would go prance back and forth, saying hello to people and nodding, and, and he would sing a song or two, and I would watch the transformation. It was like magic. It's like he rejuvenated, and all of a sudden 10 years went off of his life, and he looked beautiful, radiant, charged, vital. It was remarkable. It was remarkable. Yeah, and he would say it. He knew it. He said, "Man, when I get on that stage, I get energy from the people. It's love," he said. It's like a circuit. They give me love, and I give it back to them. And they just fill me. He said, "Man, I'm going to tell you something. I don't care what drug you've ever had or sexual experience. Nothing touches the high that you can get on the stage like that." He this is something else.
Mm.
Yeah.
I felt so sorry for him because he was looking and searching for something in Ginger, and obviously it wasn't there. Ginger's family wanted nothing but money.
Oh, exactly, man. They were just so...
And he wanted someone so badly.
It was so pathetic.
I mean, here's Elvis wanting a woman.
Exactly.
Elvis the King of Rock.
Right.
Who could have any woman
The greatest...
wanted a love.
The most handsome guy that ever happened was Elvis.
Right, and it was just like, it was such a paradox. Oh my God.
You know what?
That's insane.
It is insane, Joe. It is, man. This is a paradox.
Mm-hmm.
That's why there's such mystery and, people saying one thing, other people saying other things, and you got all these characters involved, and it gets very confusing for a lot of people. But once you start probing, and if you're intelligent and sensitive, you start to pierce through the veils, and you start to see what is. Now, you're talking about Ginger and what you just said. In fact, this was in Baltimore as well. We were in Baltimore twice. And after the show, we're all sitting around. It was about 11:30, maybe, something like that, whatever it was. And Ginger was in the bedroom. And all the guys are there, Joe and Charlie and the Stanley brothers and a few other guys. And Elvis said, listen, you guys, it's getting late, and Larry and I need to talk about something anyway. I'll see y'all tomorrow. Everyone left the room. And Elvis comes up to me, and he said, Larry, he said, you got to do me a favor, man. You got to go in the other room. And when you go, I'll go in with you, and I'll just hop into the bathroom that's adjoining the bedroom there. He said, sit with Ginger and tell her
what he
who
needs.
I really am.
Right.
Tell her what my mission is.
I couldn't believe that.
I couldn't believe it when he asked me, Joe.
Elvis was asking you to break the ice to a girl.
Tell this woman who he is. Here's Elvis Presley.
Right.
Of course, I said, of course I will, Elvis. I'm thinking to myself, my God.
The man who delivered the It's Just the Animal in Me in Jailhouse Rock
right.
was asking Lawrence Geller to break the ice with a girl.
I did. And, she's a nice girl, but so young.
She was in above her head, too.
She was so above her head, she was scared shitless, man. She didn't say a word. She didn't know what to say.
Well, she must have saw, too, that, he was so ill.
Of course.
And I'm sure her parents were saying,
her mom,
well, hang out, stay around, and you'll get all his money.
Exactly. You just stay there and behave yourself. He loves you.
Do what you have to do.
Yeah, exactly.
Mm-hmm.
That's exactly what it was.
Mm-hmm.
And, I'm going to tell you, I, in the 60s, I went to this school, this religious school out here, and Charlie Hodge went too, and he dropped out after a certain point, but I went all the way, and I took a test, and they ordained me. I mean, I had a license to marry people, and I didn't care about that. I didn't do that. That's not what I do. That's not who I am. It just came along, the license came along with the deal. So I married Elvis's dentist. It's in the book. You probably read about it.
Yeah.
And he asked me to marry he and Ginger. In my heart of hearts, I knew, no way, it will not happen. And it would not have happened. And and at the end, he woke up to her, and he knew she was seeing her ex-boyfriend.
Right. Well, she was young, too, and needed something that Elvis was not able to
provide.
Yeah.
He couldn't provide what she needed.
He physically couldn't do it anymore.
Couldn't do it, man. No, he couldn't do it. He was just, the pills, and he couldn't do it. And thank God he couldn't, because that would have ended up in God knows what. Thank God, man. Hey, if she would have had a kid, wow.
What did Elvis, what did you think of Vernon?
Vernon? Vernon was if you're making a movie about the South, in that time period, and you needed to bring in an actor in, you call the Actors Guild, and they send you Vernon. I mean, he had this molasses drawl, and he wasn't very bright. He really wasn't.
Sean said the same thing.
Okay. I kind of liked him. I really did.
Yeah, Sean said the same thing. He wasn't very bright, but he was a nice Southern gentleman.
That's right.
Yeah.
And I learned to really care for him at the end. After Elvis died, he would call me up.
And he mistrusted you in the beginning.
Totally. And it's so interesting, man, Joe, when Elvis died, he's the one, that's when he really broke down, and we really bonded. It was very, very interesting. He said, please, go sit with Elvis at the mortuary, Larry. Do his hair. You've got to do his hair. You know how he would want you to be there. You know how he should look, and all, yada, 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 which I did. But the next day was the day of the funeral. And it was about 20, 30 minutes before, and right off the kitchen, there was the maid's room, and the house was filled with people and stuff. And I saw Vernon sitting by himself on the bed, and he saw me, and he motioned for me to come in. Larry, sit next to me. I got to tell you something, Larry. I got to tell you something now. I admit it. When you first came here years ago, I was suspicious of you. He told me, He said, it took me many years to realize the truth. It's very, very simple. It's just you and Elvis are just spiritual guys. And you see, he said a mouthful. He said a mouthful.
Now, the other guys thought it was wacky, right?
Totally wacky, man.
They're too macho. They couldn't get into the...
Hey, even Priscilla. I had lunch with Priscilla recently.
Uh-huh.
She told me the same thing. She said, man, you came to, you were telling me all about yoga and this stuff. I was crazy. I put it down. I put you down for it. She said, Larry, I've got to do it every day now. Every day. Have you seen her new book?
No.
Oh, you got to get a copy. It's really good.
Yeah, Elvis by the Presleys.
Yeah, and there's a whole chapter about, it's called The Seeker.
Uh-huh.
It's about me.
Oh, cool.
And the books, what she thought of, what she thinks of me. And it's very beautiful. She said, man, I changed. And she did. She really has in a lot of ways.
What did Elvis think of the holidays?
About the what?
Holidays.
What do you,
holidays. Christmas, Halloween.
Oh, the holidays.
Again, was he like a big kid?
He loved the holidays. The holidays were so special to him. He got into everyone. It's amazing. Every Christmas, Elvis say, there's people in my house. They tell me that they're my relatives. I don't know who the hell they are.
Oh, they just show up on the holiday?
Yeah.
Oh, gosh.
He says, I know why they're here. He says,
but don't you think that took its toll on Elvis, too?
Yeah. But he understood it, though. He understood it. He understood. He said, listen, man, I remember one time we're on tour, and someone said, Elvis, I got some great news. In those days, a ticket was $15 to see Elvis in concert. It's a joke today, right? They said, Elvis, they're going to raise the price of the tickets, meaning he was going to make more money. He said, no, they're not. Not if I have anything to say about it. He said, man, let me tell you something. I know how hard it is out there. I know what it's like to struggle, and I'll never, ever, ever forget. It's tough, man. And my fans, they don't make a lot of money. They got to save up to come to one of my shows. And that's very interesting, don't you think?
Yeah, very much.
Totally. And he understood, man, people, they don't have anything, So if I can give them some money, if I can make them happy, I'll make them happy. What hurt him was the people who pretended to be his friends. That's what hurt him. And
there were those right to the end?
Well, yeah.
Yeah.
And there were people that... God, how do I even say this? Because
I know you don't want to say names. I know.
There was a guy that used to work for Elvis. Elvis paid to stay away from him.
Are you kidding me? Stay away from me? I'll give you money.
In other words, he knew that if you gave the guy money, he would stay away.
Oh, I was going crazy trying to figure out who Mr. X was.
Oh, well, I'd rather not.
No, that's okay. No, but I was trying to, I was trying to think of different.
You mean the one when I went to say that Elvis was sick and I'm worried? That one?
No, I thought it was the one that he accidentally... was that F?
Oh, the one he hit.
He hit accidentally. Was that a reaction, or was
it... It was a total reaction, because the guy started pestering Elvis. The guy pestered Elvis a lot, and you know who he is. It would probably really surprise you, by the way. And...
well, I thought right off the bat that it was Charlie Hodge. That's who I thought it was.
Really?
Yeah. I'd be wrong.
Yeah, you're right.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
And I kind of see. I'm not that as far gone as I thought.
Yeah,
I did that with just deduction.
Yeah, it was. And Elvis felt. Oh man, he felt so bad. He didn't mean, he turned around. It was a reaction. I never saw him do that to anyone.
And he ran upstairs and cried.
He did. He cried, and he called me. He said, and went through a whole thing on the, Larry, you got to sleep with Charlie tonight. Joe, I didn't want to sleep with Charlie. Okay?
No.
But he had this little love seat. I said, all right, I'll stay in his room. And Charlie was a mess, man. Because Charlie used to drink and take pills,
Yeah, yeah.
And he was he just cried. How could he do that? I said, Charlie, he didn't mean to.
Yeah.
He just told me.
Charlie did love him.
Oh, totally, man. Charlie's a good guy.
Mm-hmm.
Charlie is a good guy, and he's faithful to Elvis. He is a faithful friend.
Even until now, he is.
Totally.
Yeah.
In the second to last tours, I know it's in the book, Vernon came and he said, you guys better watch it, because Elvis knows that you're here for the paycheck. There's only three guys that talk to Elvis. Larry, Charlie, and Billy. That's the truth.
Mm-hmm.
That's the truth, man.
Do you remember anything I know I've heard stories about Christmas and that, but anything about Halloween? Did he like Halloween, or no?
No, he wasn't into Halloween.
Okay.
He was into 3 holidays.
Okay.
Christmas, and always had this beautiful nativity scene, and gave money. He wrote checks to so many charities, and every day gifts would come to Graceland. A lot of teddy bears, and he would store them up in the attic, and he would have them take them down to the Children's Hospital, St. Jude's, every year, and he loved Christmas, loved Thanksgiving, always had a big dinner, always home for Thanksgiving, always had a nice meal, and the whole family, and the guys, we'd sit around, it was beautiful, and the 4th of July. That was very important to Elvis. He was a very...
he was an American.
He was American.
He took that he did, yeah.
Oh, man, through and through. He was patriotic in that sense. He believed in his country. He believed in everything that America stands for. And he would have some guys go out and buy like $500, $1,000 worth of fireworks. We used to choose up sides, and we got into some pretty heavy-duty fights. I'm telling you, man, with Roman candles, and we would have to put masks on our face because it was dangerous.
Yeah.
And man, we got into it. It was cool, though.
Yeah, it sounds like it was. Another thing in your book.
Rowdy,
Another thing that upset me was Elvis asking asking Joe to go get him a girl because he wanted somebody in his bed.
Oh, yeah.
And then it goes right back to what we already talked about.
Well, here's the deal. We were in Binghamton, New York, and the reason I remember that so well because I was born just a few miles away down the road in Elmira, which is maybe, 20, 30 miles away, and it's in like the country of New York.
Yeah, there's a prison there.
Huh?
There's a prison there.
Yeah, there's a prison there, exactly.
Yeah.
It's true. And this is when he sent Ginger home on the plane, and they got into a big fight. And he said, man, every time I come to talk to you, you're talking to your mother on the phone, and she's telling you what to do with me, and she's directing everything, and I don't like it, and you better think twice, girl. And he sent her home. So that night, this is the first time he was alone in a long time. A very long time. And so I'm in the room with him. He said, Larry, what am I going to do, man? I want to tell you something, Joe. As we're talking, I'm in the room in my mind's eye. I can see it. I can see Elvis in the bed. I'm sitting there. It's amazing.
Uh-huh.
At any rate, he said, call Joe, man. So I said, all right. So I called Joe, and Joe comes over wearing his pajamas. What's up, Elvis? And Elvis said, Joe, I can't sleep by myself. I said, I just need someone in the room with me. Just call the coast. And Joe went, so I can't, Elvis. It's too late. And by the time I got here, it'd be, 10 o'clock in the morning. He said, that's a project. Let me work on it. I'm going to bed, And I said, all right. So that's when I came up with the idea for Gazi, which worked out beautifully.
And she understood.
Totally. And it was so funny. I called Kathy up. She told me later, the next day, she thought I was calling her up to hit on her. Yeah.
Oh, cool.
And so I said, Kathy, I'm with Elvis, and he really needs you to stay with him tonight. And I'll meet you in the elevator. Just grab your stuff. And Elvis said to me after when I hung up, he said, "You explained to her this is not sexual.
Right.
I just need her next."
And for one thing, when I read that, this is not sexual, I thought because he wouldn't be able to, and it would devastate him.
That's right, exactly. And he knew that Kathy was very spiritual and understood where he was coming from. So I went to the elevator, and a couple of cops, were there, and the door opens, and there's Kathy in her nightgown, and I take her by the hand. And as I'm walking away, I turn around, and the cops look at me, and they wink to give me the okay sign. They thought she was going to my room. They had no idea. Right?
Yeah. I wanted to... thank you.
You got it, man.
Bye-bye.